This is another form of introduction to the Moorish Science philosophy. But first, I would like to say greetings, love, peace, and prosperity to everyone who joined me to this live chat or just view this video. But the structure that I have created for myself, I have to realize and recognize my nobility. I have to recognize my intelligence. I have to recognize the levels that I could prosper. Because everybody have basically their choice in life to live in a way that can best suits their own standards, as well as they can choose anything according to their lifestyle or what they partake in everyday structure. Because everybody has a spiritual journey. While everybody has a spiritual journey, they have their own choices that they have to make. My philosophy, I have to sacrifice for survival. It is law, because within my philosophy, if love is law, then you respect. Respect is law. And within the common rights of humanity, within every nation's constitution, even international law, you have to correspond to international laws with basically the universal laws. And there are only seven universal laws. And through the laws of correspondence, as human beings and supreme beings and mental and psychological transformation through spiritual development, we must recognize the common law as life, liberty, and security of persons and property. And that's my philosophy through respect, which is love is law. Within that philosophy, it helped me to understand the political structure of my business in order for me to be recognized not just by human beings, but through my own efforts and my own potential as a human being in respects for every human life. Only through people that violates the principles that I set for myself, and I made them to understand and hope of respect and reasonability. But in the violation of the lack of knowledge or awareness of self and lack of knowledge of self pertaining to who they are, then yes, certain precautions must be taken on the mental or physical level. Because we must understand principles. Because principles is the structure of psychological transformation through civilized minds. And only through a civilized mind we can look at one another as human beings and not as savages. So therefore, through the structure of how I put my business within my own standards and through my nature with my energy that I vibrate in. This is the main reason that Moorish Science philosophy must be in its own independent structure in a way that it corresponds with every other culture and organization of business in a way that it respects the human structure or functions. So therefore, through this introduction of my structure within my philosophy, I do present you more science philosophy in Trinidad and Tobago, and as well for the human family throughout the world and throughout the galaxies and other beings that exist in other realms throughout the universe. Within the mind of the Most High, the Allah, that's also within us, arm, leg, arm, head, through peace, or in Arabic we say Islam, ourself, law, and master. We have evolved as intellectual beings in many different structures of that which corresponds to the different zodiacs. And within these different zodiacs, it helps us to understand ourselves through astrological adaptations, through life experiences. Therefore, we have to analyze ourselves in everything that we do in this life in order for us to continue to develop our minds, our prosperity, even our liberty. Because And therefore, a lot of wars has been waged because of different principles and agenda has been adapted because of greed and ego. And sometimes through the art of war, even within our ego, we must still acknowledge our potentials because our potentials help us to understand our creativity. Even in war, creativity has its main functions in order for us to defeat our opponents, even though that respect has been abolished from the minds at that time, even in today's time, and we basically have adapted the illogical transformation of our minds. So this Moorish science, which is my philosophy, is through my research, is through my common reasoning, deductive reasoning, and inductive reasoning, because a lot of things pertaining to the other philosophies and teachings of other people is not in corresponding with today's teachings of modern day history as well as the science and spiritual science. But when you're dealing with mythology, things that has been structured as symbolism that does represent the modern day way of thinking pertaining to the history, science, and spiritual science, even in psychology. We adopted these things from other cultures so we can continue to have them to live within our minds. But even if they live within our minds, we don't have the right context to put them in because the classification that has been put within the titles of these different nations and the different structures and doctrines has been misinterpreted because a lack of information was always into play. So now we have to put things in its right perspective within our own studies, within our own realizations, imaginations, in order for us to continue to evolve as human beings and supreme beings, as spiritual beings. We have too many bodies that vibrates in one because this vessel is only to adapt within the gravitational pull of the earth. So therefore, our ways and actions can only be in correspondence within everyday life. Aging is only a concept of mind. So therefore, we must learn how to develop our minds and work together because even though we might work as individuals, we must recognize the one whole. I can say, yes, I created my own structure and my own philosophy, but I still have to correspond within the one whole. And that's one thing that I understand. And this is the main reason why we as human beings and supreme beings has forgotten the one whole and only adapt within our own understandings pertaining to the ecosystem that we have adopted through our emotions and our desires, our pleasures and wants. So therefore, the obsolete of basically the one whole has destroyed us. So unity is important in today's time, but we don't have it no more. We must adapt it. We must continue to evolve it. And the more that we evolve, we understand how we can continue to evolve into the one. So in order for us to adapt within the one whole, we must understand intelligence because intelligence plays a part within our mental processing. It don't matter if you know how to read minds or you feel shameful because if you do read a mind through people's actions, then sometimes it will limit you from evolving because you're having too much emotions and you're taking on to the mental imbalancements because you feel a certain way of shameful actions and shameful thoughts. We have to abolish that altogether because we have to gain the supreme wisdom in order for us to work together as a people. Until then, we will continue to have wars amongst each other. It don't matter if it's an intellectual war or physical war with guns. We will continue to wage war amongst one another. Of course, like me, for example, I understand war. I understand how to destroy my enemy with my mind as well as my physical. And sometimes you have to take war. You have to go into action. Sometimes, not all the time. But even within those sometimes, we must also still love our enemy and don't always hurt them, even though sometimes, individuals don't care because they don't respect the concept of love is law. So therefore, we continue to digress within our adaptation to our capabilities and our potentials as supreme beings. So we have to have supreme wisdom, not wisdom. You have to be wise on this earth. So how can we be wise? By using intelligence. Because sometimes when people do things to you, is it always that we have to take action to destroy another person because of their ignorance or their arrogance or their prideful ways? And we feel a certain envy because of that? Do we always have to do that? Sometimes we got to let go. Sometimes we have to look the other way. But when the situation gets too deep, then we have to continue to do certain things to make another person understand if it's purposeful for me to wage war against you. If it's purposeful, then you have to defeat your enemy by all costs. Only if it's purposeful, because certain principles has been violated. But that doesn't mean to destroy. Sometimes you must wage war also on an intellectual level to show another that you are actually one people. You know better than me, I'm no better than you. We just have different agendas and different perceptions and reality. This is basically the structure of the Moorish science in my point of view, my creation. But we have to continue to evolve one another. So I'm willing to basically share my thoughts as a form of business in order for us to continue to evolve within this new world order. Peace.